you're coming into this fight now, defending your light heavyweight championship. You were on the Ultimate Fighter before. Like, do you think that gives you some sort of advantage coming into this with no fans?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've wrestled in front of, wrestling's not a hugely popular sport. You know, in college, we wrestled in front of a couple hundred people. You know, that was one-on-one sport, going out there and competing and dead quiet. Then on the Ultimate Fighter, going out there with your team and, you know, a couple coaches, maybe 30, 40 people in the whole thing in a warehouse, you know, and you're warming up in the back, but you can't hear anything. There's no crowd, you know. So I'm actually relishing this whole week. You know, it's low-key. I get to walk out there like it's a hard Friday morning spar. You know, we have we speak different languages, you know, myself and my opponent, you know, is cornerman. So, you know, I can kind of tone them out and listen to my corner, and all the hoopla is kind of gone, which is good and bad. But I think it's something different. I'm excited about it, actually.
And how were you able to train during this pandemic? Like, I know a lot of fighters had something differently. Maybe some had to change the way they met with their sparring coaches and wrestling. So how did this change training for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect, too. We had a building that, you know, we train in. We have a cage, mats, and all that weight equipment. But it's not open to the public, and it never was. You know, so it was just a pro team. And so we cut down that pro team, and I used, you know, 3, 4, 5 guys that, you know, high level that I needed for this fight. And, you know, we got tested every couple of weeks. You know, we were clean, made sure everybody was safe. Because the last thing I wanted to do is go through another training camp, wait, you know, some more, get here and get canceled because somebody has COVID. You know, so I was able to keep my training pretty consistent and pretty much the same. You know, the only thing, I usually bring people in. You know, I usually bring a decent amount of Brazilians in, but this time I didn't. I kept with the crew that, you know, I was working with.
And final question for me, looking at heavyweight and light heavyweight, which division do you think poses the best challengers for your title?
Both of them, really. You know, I was up after I did the heavyweight Grand Prix. You know, Bellator asked me to defend the heavyweight title, and I did that. You know, and during that time, light heavyweight kind of, you know, they came up with a true contender in Nemkov. You know, so you know, he kind of rose up and did very well, and so now we're back down, and I can jump back and forth. I see great matchups in both of them. You know, being down here right now, go out there, get this win this Friday. You know, I probably want to stay down here at 205 for one more fight. You know, while I made the weight, my body's primed for it, and then, you know, keep bouncing back and forth.
All right, our next question will come from the line of Josh Gross. Josh, your line is now live.
Hey Ryan, how are you?
What's going on, Josh?
I'm wondering, it's the first fight for you at 205 since 2017. You talk about you're comfortable with the weight, you feel good. Was there a process? Was there a game plan to get back to 205? How did you manage it to make it so seamless for you?
Well, we had a fight booked in May, and thinking about that, and then you know, then COVID hit. You know, Nemkov is from Russia, the whole travel ban, all that. So we were thinking maybe if it's heavyweight. You know, probably about 4 weeks ago, I kind of learned that, all right, we're going back down to light heavyweight, you know, and so I always kept myself in a good weight in between, and so it really wasn't bad at all. You know, I left Arizona around or just under 220, my weight's good, you know, and so just getting the last little bit off. So just eating clean, eating healthy, which in turn, I feel like upped my game a little bit because I was extremely healthy through the last 4 weeks. Where at heavyweight, I'm like, all right, if there's something there, I want to eat it. On a heavyweight, whatever, I'll eat it.
This fight at this time, yesterday it was announced that John Jones is relinquishing his 205 title. All of a sudden, it seems like globally the light heavyweight division's opened up. Like, who is the number one guy? Put this fight on Friday in context in terms of that picture. What does this fight determine in terms of who's the best light heavyweight on the planet?
Yeah, arguably you can say that, you know, winner of this fight, you know, is the best light heavyweight out there right now. You know, how can you not? You know, we've both proven ourselves. You know, I know he's more inexperienced a little bit. You know, he still has 13, 14 fights. You know, I've been there, done that. I'm double champ. I fought in both organizations. You know, I'm 13-1 in my last 14 fights and won no contest, which, you know, is what it is. And then, you know, so my question is, how can you not say that?
for the people who don't see that, what is your response to them? The arguments are, it's not in the UFC or whatever the argument is. How do you say, you know what, if I win this fight, I am the number one guy?
I don't know. You look at my resume, look at who I beat, look at my my wins, and you go through that and look how much I've grown these last X amount of years, or 3-4 years. But I haven't lost in I think the last 4 years. It's not like I'm fighting bums out here. I'm fighting the best competition out there. And I've been a perennial top 5 guy in the UFC before I left, and I've grown so much since then. So it's just I'm leaps and bounds better than I was 5 years ago, better than I was a year ago. And ongoing.
All right, thank you.
All right, our next question comes from the line of Connor Northrup. Connor, your line is now live.
Hey Ryan, how you doing?
Good, you?
Not too bad, thanks for asking. You're a guy, like the guy was just saying before, you fought at light heavyweight, you fought at heavyweight, but with the news of Jones too, and someone who has fought Jones in the past, how do you feel like he fares at up a weight class?
I think he's going to do very well. He's a bigger frame guy anyway. He's tall and he's lanky. I think his length is going to cause a lot of problems. He's going to be a lot faster than a lot of these heavyweights. One thing I realized going up to heavyweight, that my speed, was definitely there. And your cardio and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. So I think he's going to do very well. Obviously he shouldn't jump into, a title contention fight or for the title. You can't discredit Jones. He's one of the best of all time. So going up to heavyweight, I don't see a real big difference. Those guys are big at light heavyweight. This is going to be even more faster.
Yeah. And you talked about your weight cut too and how it is going pretty smooth, but the fact that you are a little older now too and you haven't cut that weight in a while, did you have to make any different adjustments than maybe, 3 years ago?
Just being a little more healthy in my eating and watching a little more, tracking it. This fight was somewhat short notice as far as weight class, and so I immediately hit the ground running. It was extremely, extremely clean and kept everything tracked and all my food, and so it actually turned out really well. I've been feeling great. It's probably yesterday I worked out, probably the best I've ever felt 5 weeks. Maybe my body just likes to lose that extra, 15 pounds that I usually have on me, and I was feeling awesome. My speed was there. Felt great in my head, so for me, it's being a little more disciplined, but in the same time, that only helps me in the long run.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, our next question will come from the line of Steve Jewin. Steve, your line is now live.
Thank you, and thank you, champ, for the time. I appreciate it. I'd like to know, with that Czech Congo fight, obviously that was not the outcome you were looking for, but now you're back in the light heavyweight division and defending that up title, your 2 titles. So when you get back to heavyweight, do you want to give Congo another opportunity, or would you rather take an up-and-comer like Valentin Moldavsky if he wins on Friday?
Yeah, I definitely want to get that Congo rematch. I think there's unfinished business. We've been going back and forth for a while, and I still think it's kind of cowardly what he did, and then try to run with that whole thing, and so and then continually talk smack. So it's one of those things where I definitely want to get that back. There was talk about maybe fighting him this summer when Nemkov could get into the country and all that. So it's just one of those things where it's just unfinished. And so definitely, when I go up to heavyweight, I want to fight him.
All right, and my other question for you is, obviously everybody's thinking about this John Jones thing with him just vacating the belt. Do you feel like in some ways that was a calculated move on his part to overshadow you having arguably the best title fight this week?
No, I don't think it was anything towards me. I think it's, for him, a lot of people pay attention to the heavyweight title, I think after he watched DC and Stipe go at it, and he was like, man, I can beat these guys, I can beat Stipe and whatnot. Thinking that in his head, he's like, I'm going to go up for the heavyweight title, and so it's the biggest, most prestigious, title out there, so at heavyweight, so I think he's kind of in that mode of thinking, and he's always kind of alluded to he was going to go up one day, and I just think he thought now is the time.
Our next question will come from the line of Jay Anderson. Jay, your line is now live.
Thanks very much, and Ryan, welcome back. First of all, just wanted to know, just mentally, how frustrating was it, how difficult was it when this fight was pushed back, because you were preparing for a fight in May?
Yeah, I mean, I fought in September. I was prepared for a fight. Scott Coker and I were trying to get that Rising fight for the title, and the New Year's Eve card. We were trying to book a fight in February in Arizona. The venue fell through, and then we had one finally booked in May, and then obviously COVID hit, and nobody's fault, and it got pushed back. And so I'm just extremely grateful to be here right now. There's so many variables right now that are happening. Guys getting to fight week, popping up, testing positive, and luckily, we did our test. We're all good. We have one more. Weigh-ins are tomorrow, and we're here finally. And so I'm just fortunate enough that I get to fight. I'm fighting for a title. I get to work basically. A lot of Americans are out there that don't have jobs, and so I'm just very fortunate right now.
One of the wrinkles here is the empty arena. You did fight on The Ultimate Fighter. Do you think that's prepared you for it?
Yeah, when you get into a fight, you really kind of you don't have any distractions. You can't really hear anything outside world too much. You're in your own world, but it takes a little bit of that, like the hoopla away, a little bit of that nervous energy that a crowd brings. And there's pros and cons to it, I think. It's fun to get a win and the crowd's cheering and all that, but for me, I'm going to embrace it. I've been there, I've done that. I'm going to go out there. It's going to feel comfortable. I'm going to hear my coaches. Like I said, the hoopla is kind of gone. So when I can go out there and think and be comfortable, clear-headed, that's when I fight my best.
Our next question will come from the line of Damon Martin. Damon, your line is now live.
Hey Ryan, when we talked a couple weeks ago, it was before a lot of this stuff happened. I know the conversation was already brought up about you being the number one guy in the sport, now with John Jones out of the division, things like that. But we had this conversation years ago about the whole Pride versus UFC debate. When one guy was in one league, guy was in another league. But do you feel like you're getting the respect you deserve? As Bellator, double champ, heavyweight, light heavyweight, or does that even matter to you?
It doesn't really matter. I know how good I am. My team knows how good I am. Bellator knows how good I am. So for me, it's just that's what it is for me. But I think you're seeing a little bit more of, hey, is this guy the best light heavyweight out there right now with Jones going up and everything? And I believe it is. I believe the winner of this fight, is definitely in consideration of the best light heavyweight out there right now.
Does that, I won't say adds pressure, because I know you told me you kind of at this point don't really feel that pressure. You kind of go and loose and just kind of enjoy yourself in the fights. But do you feel like that's a chance to kind of make that statement? The timing could be more perfect with a big title fight coming up on Friday, and now we're kind of defining the light heavyweight, best light heavyweight in the sport. Do you feel like that's a chance for you to kind of submit that spot?
Yeah, it's definitely a time, and especially with Nemkov, he's one of those guys that people are like, oh, he's the next guy, he's an uppercomer, this and that. And he will be a champion one day, but he won't on Friday, and so this fight is definitely one of those fights where, like I said, very well may be the best light heavyweight in the world right now. But for me, there's pressure every fight because I like to win, and I'm a competitor, and so no fight's really different. Added pressure, less pressure. You have the belts. I have 2 belts, but I'm looking to go in there and win regardless.
Do you feel like that mindset is a big key for you finding the success that you've had? Because I know we've talked in the past, you did put a lot of pressure on yourself and going into certain fights and things like that. Do you feel like that mentality has been a big part of the success you've found lately?
Yeah, we've talked about this too, and there's a fight, with Anthony Johnson that when they're in there's a lot of pressure, potential title shot, in the future, all that, and I didn't perform, I didn't show up. One of the only times I really didn't. And so after that fight, I always told myself before these other fights that, you're going to go out there, you're going to have fun, you're going to perform, because when you show up, and you usually do pretty damn well, and so in the meantime, since then, I've been undefeated. I'm 13-1 with 1 no contest in my last 14 fights, and so it's a different mind frame, a mindset, and I threw myself into that mindset wholeheartedly.
And my last question, when you were at heavyweight, and Scott Coker said that you were the best heavyweight in the sport, he said, I do feel like I'm the best, and no offense to Steve May or anybody else out there, but the fact that Bellator is going out and getting a lot of these guys that are that other competition, obviously Lyoto Machida is coming in, we talked about Corey Anderson coming in, heavyweight the same way, we've seen a lot of guys coming in at heavyweight. Do you feel like that's a big part of you defining
love seeing guys like Corey Anderson come in. And there's top guys. Phil Davis has been a top, I believe, top freaking 4 guy, for the last 10 years, and so a lot of people look and say, oh, UFC and Bellator. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what organization you're in. There's badass competitors, for me in both weight divisions, and I've been there, done that in UFC too, and I've just continued to grow since then, and so man, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying where I'm at, and I'm just looking to keep that ride rolling.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, the last question of the day here is going to come from the line of Dimitri Kagan. Dimitri, your line is now live.
Hey Ryan, you mentioned you want another fight at light heavyweight after this one. Hypothetically speaking, if this fight didn't go your way and you didn't get the rematch as the next fight, would you still want to stay at light heavyweight, or would you want to go up and defend the heavyweight title?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of different variables there, but yeah, it all depends. I mean, if there's a great fight there at light heavyweight, fun fights would be somebody like Machida, but I plan on winning this fight. I plan on going out there and beating Nemkov, and then and turning it around pretty soon and doing the light heavyweight title fight again. There's a couple matchups out there that I like. There's Corey Anderson in the wings. There's Machida out there. I know there's some fights being worked out, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Do you feel like you'll prove your point if you take out Nemkov that you got Fedor's team covered?
Yeah. I've been hearing this Fedor thing, and Fedor's, he's Nemkov's his protege, all that. How am I reacting to that? I don't really, give a shit, really. I mean, Fedor was in there for 35 seconds. All he could say is how fast how hard I hit, basically. We never got into any grappling exchanges, any clinches, and so that doesn't matter. It's one of those things where, he might have watched tape prior to our fight and he can pass that along, but Nemkov can't, tag in Fedor and both of them come out and fight me. It's Nemkov and I out there, light heavyweight strap, and I'm going to come out victorious.
Of course, and having seen Nemkov in action, what weaknesses do you see in his game that you'll be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about Nemkov, but experience was one huge factor I see. He's been to, I think, 1 3-round fight, in his wins, and he was utterly exhausted in that Phil Davis fight. Phil Davis fight, during the Phil Davis fight, Phil was on top of him, had his wrist, had some submissions, and Nemkov couldn't move under there. So I'm going to keep that pressure the whole time. This is a 5-round fight. I've been there. I've proven in 3 rounds. I've been proven in 5 rounds, and that's going to be the difference.